there, and welcome back to our study on the book of James. We're into session number 6 today, and we're getting into the very interesting topic of taming the tongue. This week we have the privilege of being welcomed onto this hobby farm with some friends that we've made here, and I am surrounded behind me with 2 very beautiful creatures, 2 horses, Daisy and Wispy. And as we know in our passage, James is going to introduce this new line of argument where he is going to continue to teach and continue to challenge believers and Christians to not just listen and take in information about what's true about God, to not just believe and claim to believe that they are Christian, but to live out and practice their faith. He's going to continue to hammer that home. And this week, we're going to look at the way that he focuses on how important our speech is when it comes to practically living for Jesus. Now, so many of us have at different times, at different points, said something that we immediately regret. I can think of many examples just off the top of my head where I've made, maybe it's even a joke, maybe it's just a casual comment in passing, and then I right away notice, ooh, I shouldn't have said that, or you know what, I think that came across a certain way. And we've probably all been on the other end of that, where someone has said something to us just, off the cuff, or you can tell it's just a casual comment, but that actually really hurt. That actually really cut deep. And so James is gonna introduce this important topic, that the way that we speak, the way that we communicate with one another is extremely important. And so that's what we're going to dive into here this week. All right, in our passage this week, we're looking at James chapter 3, verses 1 through 5a. And the first section is really just verse 1, where James is going to introduce this topic of the importance of how we speak by talking about people that really rely on their speech, and that is teachers. And so he's going to point out that teachers are held to this higher standard. They're going to be judged more strictly than the average Christian, and so they are held to a higher standard, and that means that not everyone should seek to become a teacher. And so he kind of introduces this idea of our words really, really matter, and that is especially true for teachers. And then he goes on to that, after that, verses 2 through 5a, in broadening this teaching now to not just teachers, but to all Christians. And he's going to point out that we all fall short in the way that we use our words. We all stumble in sometimes engaging in talk that is not honoring to God. And so he's going to give from there some pictures, one of which has to do with horses and bits in their mouth. And also he talks about a big ship that is controlled by a small rudder. And the idea there being that these big, powerful vessels are controlled by very small, seemingly insignificant things. And the tongue is the same way to the body. Our body, the course, the direction that we take in our life is dictated by our speech. And often we don't think about that. We live in a culture, in a world where words often are watered down or don't carry a lot of meaning. But God says something very different. And so those are kind of the 2 sections that we're going to see in our text as we engage with it this week. Okay, as you can see, I'm standing here with Daisy, and she's been hooked up with her bridle, and the bit is in her mouth. I'm holding onto her reins, and I'm feeling like a little bit of a cowboy right now. No, you can tell like I'm obviously not strong enough to control this animal, but she knows that the bit in her mouth she's been trained that is going to actually control her movement, that she is, depending on a more experienced rider on her back, being able to pull her mouth this way or that way through the bridle, and the bit is going to control her direction. She's going to know when it's time to stop, when it's time to turn left or right, or when it's time to go. And that's all controlled by the bit that's in her mouth. And so these are big animals. These are beautiful, powerful creatures, it's obvious. And this picture of just this small piece of metal in her mouth controlling her is quite significant. And if we think about it as an illustration of our own tongues and the importance for us to control our tongues, because our tongues in a similar way control the direction and course of our life as well, really puts it into perspective. And so I'll hand it off now to your group leaders for some more discussion as you go through the text and some other scriptures as well. So hopefully this has been helpful for you guys as the image comes to life a little bit. Just wish you God's blessing as you continue on with the study.